in my entire career, the most amount of money, like dollar amounts in my bank account, and I'm going to be pretty honest here, was when I had one location.
So you have 6 sublease locations each. What is the dynamic of that, like by brand, if you don't mind sharing?
For the most part, I try to run all of them equally, so it just looks like cut and paste. I do have the 3 Luxottica brands, so they all do function a little different. We know that LensCrafters runs different than Target, just like the optical side in general, and how much they are part of the clinic day to day versus how independent they are. So there are some cultural changes between each location. Four Eyes is in one of my newer locations of this year, so that's a little different too. It's still trying to get on its feet, and I feel like I'm just like seeing how the changes. But like again, they all have culturally a little bit of a difference. And then my Walmart is completely different as well. So the only thing I can do to make it fit is make my business cut and paste. So I don't care which location it's at. Like these are the protocols, these are the prices, these are the day to day for the tech come in. This is your sheet to do. This is the doctors run the same. There are 3 patients out an hour, whatever the case. Like so, there's nothing. Like I said, so I can cut and paste even if I need to move employees around my businesses. But being in 4 different brands, even though 3 of them are within Luxottica's umbrella, they still don't culturally always feel the same when you go to work, but my side does. So for as much as we can, that's kind of a really important thing to me, is to keep them, for me, the same, because there's no other way I can monitor and look at all these locations if they don't run the same, if I expect the same protocols in each one. So that's kind of how I.
So 2 LensCrafters, 2 Target, per a 4 Eyes and a Walmart. Is that correct?
1 LensCrafters, 3 Targets.
Got it.
4 Eyes and Walmart.
Okay. And Faten, what about you?
So very similar. So I three different brands. Majority of them are SO Exotica brands. So I've got a LensCrafters, 4 Targets, and a CI Wear location, which is a privately owned company. So I have the 2 of them in Miami. So yeah, it's like she said, we just the brand itself is the same. We do operate a little differently per location based on those little tweaks that we have to do. As you know, you've got several LensCrafters, so you know that LensCrafters operates a little differently than Target, than Walmart, than all of that stuff. But we are the permanent, right? So your brand is the same. So
yeah,
we operate the same. We're the constant. So and the beauty of having the same protocol across all offices is at the end of the month, when we're looking at numbers and we're looking at productivity, when we're looking at making changes to make things better for the business and efficiency, it all ultimately ends up being the same. So that's the beauty of it, is while it's different brands, we are the main constant, and so our numbers are pretty amazing month after month, regardless of which brand we're in.
Well, yeah. So, I know doctors that have, like you had referenced. So I have 4 LensCrafters subleases, and I know, I have friends that kind of like you guys have them spread out amongst different brands. How did that happen, out of curiosity? Like, what did that look like for anybody who's listening and wondering, hey, I want to get involved in sublease? Do I stay within one brand? Do I spread myself out and try out different opportunities based off of maybe a couple Target, a couple LensCrafters, a couple Walmart?
I think before that question, what's more important is it worth it? So one of the things that we tell students when we're like, and they're like, oh my gosh, you guys have so many locations and things like that, I always remind them 95% of us have one location. Let's say in the corporate optometry world, right? Like 90% at least, if not higher. That is more the norm. You can run a very successful, amazing business. You're the main doctor. You're the one running your business. Even if you take yourself out and put a doctor in, and you're still running and overseeing one practice because it does so well on its own. So I always try to remind them that is actually the goal. The goal is to have one successful practice. Adding on, that's something different. Wanting to build an empire of different, that's cool and that's doable, and absolutely you can strive for that in the future. But that shouldn't be the first goal, because having more doesn't necessarily mean, at the end of the day, more money. It doesn't necessarily always mean that, or not by much more at all. For some people it does, but not for everyone. Part of it for some people is more of just being able to do something more in the industry and be really involved. But it's not necessarily about that, because you can be super successful with one private, one corporate location, for instance. So that's always like my first thing I say to students when they ask me, because I'm like, this is not the norm. Like right now you have a panel of 4 of us and we all have 4+ locations. That's really cool. And that's awesome. And pick our brains about what you want to, but just know that that's not what you're going to find out there usually with corporate doctors, for instance. It's usually one location and you're just killing it and you're doing a really great job at building your business. So I think like that's really important first. And then you just have to decide if it makes sense to grow. So being part of like Luxottica, you're going to be offered first because you've grown a business and you have partnerships with leadership, and regional managers and so forth. So if you show an interest, that's how you start to grow with several locations, if that's what you want. But I think that's like always really important that I always like tell students too. I'm like, or doctors, some of our associate doctors we've actually had more locations that we've given or sold over to some of our associate doctors. We've actually let some go, and let other doctors that we trained for several years have that opportunity. And they're still all single lease holders. Like they all have one location, all of our doctors that did that, and they're doing great and they're super happy. And that was the goal for them. We taught them how to be a successful business owner and have an optometry practice within their location. And that's their life right now. And they have zero ambition to want to grow. So that's okay. Because
I don't think that's necessarily ambition, right? So I think,
bad way.
Yeah, but I want to be very clear on this, because we talk to students a lot about this, and I consult doctors when because we've had several doctors that have come to us and they're like, hey, we want to do what you want to do. We want to rinse and repeat and copy and paste. And this is from across the US, right? Different doctors in different places. And my thing is always, there is a significant price to pay when you multiply yourself. Because every time you multiply yourself, you give a piece of yourself away from the other aspects of your life that you want to focus on. So, and I say this as a mom of 2, as a married person, as a primary caretaker of my family, like my parents. Shannon is the same. We have different responsibilities, and every time we do that, we take away a piece of that away. Right. And you know this, Ryan, too, as a father, and you have multiple locations. There is a price to pay to that devil when you do want to grow. And there's also financially, like she said, it doesn't always mean it's great. Right. So the most amount of money, surprisingly, that I made in my entire career, the most amount of money, like dollar amounts in my bank account, and I'm going to be pretty honest here, was when I had one location. Because I was working myself and I had total control of the money coming into the office. And guess what? I didn't have a chief operating officer. I didn't have a financial officer. I didn't have, right now, to run this enterprise, I have at least 5 people with salaries that are doing everything else, right? So when I was the one location, I was it all. So all that money was coming into the bank. So I think that's the part that a lot of people don't see, because they're like, oh my God, we see all these locations, but you really don't see the operational costs of these locations. You really don't see the amount of time and the amount of money that gets put out to run these organizations. When you actually look at it and you're like, wait a minute, if you're just in that one location, you might actually be smarter.
Well, thank you for being transparent and vulnerable and just talking about this. I can tell you the sentiment is very similar to a lot of people. When you're the solo individual, whether it's a private office, whether it's a sublease practice, you run like a private practice with a corporate partner, the productivity that you can put behind yourself at your highest level of productivity. Yes, when you scale, there has to be systems in place. There has to be cost to that. There's a lot of time and energy and effort and emotion, and there's a lot that goes into it. And so you're right? I mean, scaling isn't it for everybody. growing a practice over time that has multiple locations or gets a lot larger within one location takes a lot of time, energy, and effort. And I think for those listening, you want to do it the right way. You want to be intentional about that. So you guys have had the opportunity, though, to partner with some of the brands that you have subleases with, right? Your corporate partners in a kind of a unique capacity. So, Faten, I'll start with you. You were able to be in partnership with LensCrafters, and you, I mean, I saw you everywhere. How did that come about? Just kind of being like a part of some of the marketing and some of the outreach. What did that look like?
Honestly, it was I was extremely fortunate to have an incredible leaders in place at the time that I was in, and even now. So the partnership and I would say it all goes back to all of us having the same conversation around patient care. And so when we all aligned on that, that's where some of those conversations went a different path. So, like you said, being intentional about what you're looking for. My goal was always a lot bigger than just my practice. It was about the profession as a whole. So I think having that goal and kind of aligning with that kind of set it apart a little differently. Where they were like, all right, let's kind of take this to the next level. So I am eternally grateful for the platform that they've given me to share my experience and to be the face or the optometrist that speaks about this. So that was really exciting, and the partnerships really, it's been beautiful. Whether it's with LensCrafters or Target Optical, it's been an incredible journey.
I was actually referencing too. I mean, you were on a lot of the marketing materials. Like your picture was, we see you online, we see you on postcards. How did that come about? I thought that was pretty sweet.
That was pretty sweet. I don't know. It was 2 years ago until Shannon and Ryan took over, and now they're all over it. So it was. I honestly, I don't know. I just got a call one day and they were like, "Hey, we'd like for you to be part of this marketing thing. Would you like to do it?" And I said, "Sure, let's do it." And then it kind of just trickled. It was like, "Hey, let's do more and do more and do more." And so and then just sharing different ideas. I don't know. I get really awkward and uncomfortable on the camera too. So maybe maybe they like the comedy of that sometimes. Not as professional as Shannon is when she does. She actually used to be a professional model or like video person. So her videos are incredible. Mine, you can tell that I'm choking and I'm about to die. So I don't know. Maybe they enjoyed putting me through torture.
She does amazing, and this is why she's doing so many of them. That's the answer. She does amazing, and she really deserves all that spotlight because she does really great.
So Faten, you were a part of a lot of the marketing materials for LensCrafters, and then Shannon Faten referenced that now you and Ryan are on a lot of the Target Optical stuff too. What did that look like? How did that come to fruition?
I don't remember. I'll be honest. Yeah, I think I no.
Just woke up one day.
Just woke up one day. I got a call. Can you come and do this? And I said, sure. It was really, sometimes things just kind of happen, and that's kind of, I think, what happened with Dr. Edris.
But what did you do? Did they have you come to like a location and you put on?
So they
Okay.
pick a location, like a new location. So we traveled to Georgia. And because it was like a newer location, remodeled, and they were closed on Sundays, so it was like, so they didn't have to like close operations. And then it was a full day of shooting. They brought a team from Italy to do the shooting, so it was really well done. It was all done in a day. So Ryan and I were the doctors, but they actually hired a model like actress for the patient. So they flew her in from California. I don't know why they couldn't find one in Georgia, but it's funny. They figured things out, and they brought everybody together at this one location. And we just spent 10 hours straight.
Just smiling and standing and posing, and wow, that's awesome. I mean, and now I think sometimes I go on the internet and I'm, maybe I was at Target before, and like I see a little, like a display ad, and there's you and Ryan on there. So it's pretty cool. It's awesome to see you guys in a lot of the promotional materials, and clearly you guys have good relationships with the brands that you partner with. And I think that's truly a large part of your success is being amicable, but also being very positive and advocates for the corporate partnerships, and then building your practice. So as you referenced, you can take it and put it within many different corporate relationships and be successful. That's something you guys should really be proud of, and I think it was this year I saw you guys started a new group. Is that correct? What's the name of the group? I'm gonna ask. I think Faten, did you start it? Okay. What's the name of the?
No, it's no. So I did not start it.
It's an optometry group, right?
Yeah. So this is a optometry group. It actually, Dr. Eric Bailey and Brian Smedley did start this. So they spearheaded this project. It's called Civetta Group, and it is in partnership specifically with EssilorLuxottica right now. And I take that back. I shouldn't say in partnership. It is for EssilorLuxottica target optical doctors, and then we're looking to grow this. So this is a really exciting period for us, and so Shannon sits on the board, and we sit. So we're excited to see how this conversation with the brand moves forward, and with other industry groups move forward, because there needs to be a broader conversation between the optometry, the industry, and it seems to be all happening in their own little silos. So you're either with a contact lens company, or you're either with the brand, or you're either with a patient, advocacy group, but there is none that kind of counts it all or holds it all together. So we're excited. This is the first time that we're all sitting at the same table. So the industry leaders, the corporate leaders, the doctors, we all sit at the same table. So hopefully it goes into fruition. And if it doesn't, then this was a really awesome year of hanging out with some of our really good friends and some of our really awesome contact lens partners to just really party.
So then this group, you guys met, I think, in Charleston, right? Earlier this year.
Yeah. Yep.
And it was all Target Sublease stocks then?
Yes.
For the beginning, that's the start, and just to keep it small to figure things out, and then grow it.
So our right now it's just for target optical doctors, and it's very exclusive and small. It's by invite only.
I didn't get the invite, guys. I don't have a Target Sublease, but I'm really.
So it's
mine, so you can be.
I'm kidding.
Hopefully, you'll hear about it. But yes, as of right now, it is our first meetings in April. It is an invite only. A specific, I want to say we only have 25 doctors that are coming, and so this is again in partnership with Cooper Vision and Target Optical. So we're really excited to see how this moves about. So
cool.
To be discontinued. I mean, to be continued, I guess.
Not discontinued. Continued. Who knows? I can tell you, I've had a lot of success with just partnering with LensCrafters, Sublease doctors through All Docs. And so if if the goal is to try to put something like that together for Target, I get what you're trying to do. And I mean, we are strength in numbers and strength in minds and strength in the ability to partner together with each other, but also industry and find ways to push the profession forward.
Yeah.
I appreciate you guys sharing that. You guys have a lot of people that look up to you, and I think, as you've referenced, at times they may be like, wow, like everything looks so perfect or feels so perfect. Over the last few years, like what have been some of your biggest challenges that you've had to work through? And Shannon, I'll start with you. We all have challenges, right? And I'd be the first one to lie to your face right now and say, I have no challenges. I have a bunch, right? We all run and face challenges in our professional career. What's some challenges that you've navigated, and how can listeners kind of learn from those challenges?
I think one of the biggest things is, like, again, when I was saying how adamant I am about making sure to say, don't always multiply just to multiply. I think sometimes that's because when things are hard, they're hard times 6. They're not hard once, they're hard times 6, right? So, and then there's so many people that depend on you, versus having one location or two locations, and it's just like I can count the amount of people that were, that I need to make sure that everything runs good for, and I can support and maintain. So I think that's always going to be my biggest hurdle, because it is difficult sometimes in South Florida. We are a very oversaturated market. It is hard to grow sometimes more than, and we want to, and we obviously have the ambition to continue and learn and try and figure things out. But being in such a market, and sometimes just noticing overhead, it goes higher than we can even keep up with. So when things are a little rough, again, being rough times 6 is a lot, but it's just figuring out how to manage through, how to cut back, how to make things better, how to find other avenues. It just, you have to be more creative, and then you have to be more creative faster, because again, more people depend on you. And then also you depend on yourself to like not like lose your hair and go all like white, because I'm trying not to. So
Don't age us now.
well, no, for me, stress. Like, would you want me to be stress-related balding? That would be horrible.
Look at this white hair.
So if I'm hearing you correctly, one practice, payroll, and just cash flow challenges, multiply that by 6, and if you have a rough month, a rough week, a rough quarter, it kind of wears on you, right?
I think that's one of the challenges that I feel that I can say I've noticed, because like we've had really good years, really good months, but then we also have those stretches which are, it's election year, and then everything like, and then it's
or a hurricane comes through your city, right? Like we got hammered with, yeah.
So things
you guys got really, that was awful for you guys.
We got rocked. Trust me. It was, COVID was one thing that kind of the entire world got hit with the pandemic, but when you regionally get hit with a hurricane, that obviously hits a stretch of land, but comes to an area that has never anticipated a hurricane, that was different. So I empathize with you on that, Shannon. I definitely do. How about you, Faten? What are some challenges, or what is a challenge that you really truly feel has kind of hit home over the last few years?
I will say I've only felt this challenge over the last year. So I've gone through 2 pregnancies when I started this. So I used to think the pregnancies and the maternity was kind of challenging for me in the beginning of owning this. But like she said, now it's at the 6 locations, at the multi locations, right? So I want to say recently the challenge has been trying to be competitive with where optometry is going within our corporate practices. So, and this is why I think it's so important for all of us to be advocates for corporate optometry, as well as optometry as a whole and medical optometry, is that our profession is growing, and patient care is going to be at the all-time highest with the baby boomers. And so patient access is going to be huge, which means that if we're not going to be competitive in providing the care these patients need within our settings, it's going to be very challenging for us to get doctors that want to practice within our settings. So I want to say over the last year, one of the major challenges has been having some of those hard conversations within the corporate leaderships, and thankfully they're all ears, and they're hearing, and they're making changes towards more medical and understanding the need for the patients. But that's been one of our biggest challenges, I think, more than ever, is recruitment of doctors within the space, whether it's to work with us or to get their own leases. It's becoming more and more difficult. Is that if we're not going with the times, then we're kind of becoming antiquated type of practice, and that's very challenging. So we do have to adapt, and we do have to modernize the corporate practices that we're in, which means a lot of the times we have to modernize our equipments. We have to use OCTs. We have to bring in more equipment that is going to be kind of in line with the standard of optometry, and all of that means more money. And so if we're not getting that money into the practice, and if our value as a profession is not being elevated from a reimbursement standpoint, then we're not able to take care of patients the way they're supposed to. So that's one of the worries and main challenges I'm seeing right now.
Yeah, I agree with both challenges, right? You know, cash flow is always a challenge, trying to stay up to date with the latest and greatest, especially with the newest graduates coming out, and they have a lot of tools in their toolbox. They are educated, they are clinically trained to a very high level, and you want to bring those individuals and recruit them and sustain them and have them work within your practice or eventually evolve into their own practice. And doing so with some of the reimbursement rates that we have can be an issue. I totally hear you on that. I want to flip the coin though and ask you, what are some things that you're just really proud of in your current professional life? Something you're just like, I work really hard and I'm gonna allow you to toot your own horn. Like, what's something you're just like, hey, this has been awesome and I'm so very proud of it. And Faten, I'll start with you.
I am really proud that I have no debt in terms of overhead. So I still don't go to sleep, believe it or not. So I left my first job because I couldn't sleep for a different reason, and now I can't sleep for an entirely different reason. But at the very least, I know that I don't have a $50,000, $100,000 note every month that I have to pay for. So I'm really excited at the very least in this stage of my life. So that's what I think that's the freedom in a way. That's the type of freedom this type of modality has given me, is knowing that if I want to move back to, for some reason, back to the Middle East or to Iran or to Canada, anywhere, right? I want to today, I can do so without any business debt. And I don't think that I could have done that with a private practice, unless my dad was like a sheikh or something. So,
Well, I don't
which
think
is
Shannon would approve of you relocating out of the States, but regardless, that's very commendable to be debt free. That's awesome. How about you, Shannon?
Oh goodness. I think I'm just proud of being able to do what I set out to do the best I can in South Florida. I guess, like in school, I really thought I was going to be doing something different. And I found a way to do what I wanted in a venue that allowed me to be successful doing it, versus being in a private practice where I had like 10 other optometrists down the street. And like as she said, like having these bills I can't, even afford, or having to do extra work to compensate, like that part of the stress, and not having that so young in our career from the beginning was nice. And we still were able to do a lot that we wanted to do, or that we set out to do in the beginning. And I don't think that like the story's over. I think there's still more to do, or things to figure out. But I think I am proud that right out of school, I wasn't scared to start a business, start a partnership, sign a contract. I've never signed a contract before, and still be independent, still build a brand. People don't just know me as the Target doctor or as a lens crafters doctor. They know me as supervision. Like I went to do a talk to um to NECO, which is completely on the, I don't even remember where, away from, not in Florida.
Boston.
Yeah, like it's all the way over there, and I'm all the way down here.
Neco's in Boston.
Thank you. I forgot. I forgot where
Shout
it
out
was.
to Neko. We know, yeah.
Yeah, and so there were students in that class that were following my Instagram page. Like they knew who I was, and I was like, that's kind of cool that supervision was recognized. And so I did build something in that brand. And definitely Faten did as well. Like people, whenever they see me, they're like, "Are you blinking owl or supervision?" Like, we get confused a lot, but I'll take it. And it's nice that people actually recognize us as that, not just the lens crafters doctor or the Target doctor or whatever the case. They actually recognize our brands, and we have our doctors. Like I just, my birthday passed recently, and like my doctors all got me cards, and like the way they sign it, like you're super docs and da. Like that just like warms my heart, because I'm like, yeah, like that's, they wear Superman shirts, and they like when we do a cookout, we'll do something like it's fun that it's something that I kind of built, and that she definitely built, and I think that I'm proud of, because it was fun. Yeah.
Well, I'm proud of you
Why are you
both. You
saying
guys,
it was?
It
I mean,
still
By the
is.
way,
It still is.
it still is. But
I'm
like,
we're not retiring today.
I mean,
no,
you're debt free, so you might be.
I am proud of you both that you have built great brands, you have great followings online, but also in person. And so, you know, part of the vision for this podcast is to inspire people on their optometric journey and help them find success along their career path. And career paths can go in many different directions. So Shannon, I'll ask you first. What's one thing, and this is kind of the final question before we wrap things up, but what's one thing that you would say to somebody listening who is trying to find success along their optometric journey and you know, obviously something that you've experienced. And um, so what's one thing?
So someone on their journey, honestly, just ask for help and ask for guidance. We've been mentors, yes, within our brand, but even in at schools. And it's not just us. Like we've had other doctors help and mentor us at our all docs meetings. Like the doctor I used to work with at Lens Crafters. Like optometrists are really nice humans. Like we're just nice people in general. Like no one, I mean, you sit down with me for like 5 minutes, I learn so much from you every single time. You give me great advice. You don't hold back. I don't hold back. Like there's no reason to. We're even if we're competing right next to each other. Like I said, we have half of our locations within walking distance. It doesn't hurt to help each other, and it never does. And so I think anybody looking for any type of success or growth or just have questions about becoming an optometrist or building themselves as an optometrist, just ask for help from any type of anybody in the community, because everyone really is helpful and wants everyone to succeed. And how, so many of my students and techs that went out to optometry school and they still, ask me questions, and the doctors that we, mentored into getting their own leases. Like that's just the way to success, is to really stay intertwined within the community, because you just learn so much from others. And we are a nice community. I don't know if all medical fields are like this. I doubt it.
They're
I
not.
think you're like an exception. Yeah, because I've never had anyone like guide me the wrong way or be like, 1+1 really equals 3 for you, just for you. You should really put 3 as your answer. Like, no, everyone's like, no, here, this is where you sign the done. This is where you dot this, like this is a friendly environment in general. So that's my advice.
Yeah, I think every sales rep I've ever talked to that calls on us as optometrists says how much they love doing so, because we genuinely are nice people at heart. So how about you, Faten?
I would say for the person that's kind of trying their career right now, I forget the question, but
yeah, what's one thing that you would just one piece of advice that you would help them kind of flourish on their journey?
I forgot the question, so I didn't want to diverge. But I would say follow your gut and don't always follow the money, because sometimes right now we see a lot of students follow the money and we see them come right back to us. But once they come back to us, they're kind of jaded and issues and this. So I would say always there is a gut that speaks to you. There is a gut that tells you don't do something or do something. And oftentimes people, for whatever reason, try to follow the money rather than follow their gut. And my thing that I always tell people is listen to that little voice in your stomach. If it's telling you don't do it, don't do it.
She has a really good gut too. So I sometimes follow her gut for my decisions. Like she said,
I do have a gypsy gut. My mom's side of the family are gypsies from Iran. So I do have a gypsy gut.
When we say that sometimes we talk each other off the ledge about certain things, and she calls me or I call her, sometimes I'll literally call her, just be like, listen to the situation. What does it make you feel? And then that's how I'll make my decision. I'm like, okay. No.
As a man who's married to a half Persian woman, right? It's that Persian intuition, right, Faten? So I get it.
It is.
I totally get it. Thank you both for being on the show. How can people best connect with you? And Shannon, I'll ask you first. What's like the best place that if somebody wanted to reach out and just connect with you, what's the best way for them to do so?
Supervision Optometry on Instagram or on LinkedIn. Definitely Instagram, because I'm on that a lot more than I should be. So just, any messages that way. Email is the same thing, supervisionoptometry@gmail.com. LinkedIn or Instagram. Yeah.
Fun.
Mine would be Blinking Owl Eye Care on Instagram and Faten Edris on LinkedIn. So
Incredible.
I'm the Owl Doctor.
Ladies,
Thank you so much, Ryan. This was incredible. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you both. I
Thanks.
really appreciate it. I love being able to do this, obviously via an online connection, but it's always great to see you guys in person too. So I look forward to doing so soon. In regard to the listeners, make sure you share this podcast, share the episode from today. Definitely reach out if you have any questions, and stay tuned for my next podcast where we can reflect and grow stronger together.